everybody, it's Jason Blaha with Ice Cream Fitness here. Once again, it is time for the Monday Q&A, but hold on, let me give you guys a bicep shot first. Now let's get right into these questions. Okay, first question. You said the stretch reflex you get is good for strength and size. Does that apply with the stretch of the Achilles tendon? Would it be better to bounce heavy weight or control lighter weight with calf raises? Yeah, of course the stretch reflex is still helpful for the calves, and it's not the tendon itself that gives you the stretch reflex, it's the nervous system's response in the muscle fibers. Now obviously you don't want to bounce on something like a calf raise. You want to use a relatively heavy weight, of course, because obviously your workload is important for stimulation, but to initiate the stretch reflex on a calf raise, you don't need to bounce at the bottom to initiate that stretch reflex. All you need to do is go down relatively fast, not a super slow negative, just a reasonable speed negative. Drop as low as you can on the stretch at the bottom and immediately come back up. Meaning you don't pause at the stretch at the bottom. As soon as you feel that deep stretch, you immediately contract back up as hard as you can, rather than pausing at the bottom while you're at the stretch. That's how you activate a stretch reflex. So I hope that clarified that a little bit. Alright, next question. What are the first year numbers for a female lifter in your opinion? I know for men you say 225, 315, 405. Alright, with women this can be a little more difficult because frame size and strength gains seem to vary a bit more in females than they do in men. But on average, what I would generally like to see in the average frame woman, if she's been training hard for 1 year and putting serious effort into her lifting, not in the gym playing around, I would like to see her be able to bench press 115 for at least a couple reps. I would like to see at least a 285 squat for a couple of reps, and maybe around a 270, 275 max deadlift. And some of those might seem a bit extreme, but women can gain enough strength in their lower bodies to where that squat and deadlift number are achievable if they really work for it in that first year. Now obviously if they just have a much smaller and lighter frame than average, it's going to be more difficult, and some women who have a larger bone structure are going to find it a lot easier to hit those numbers. So those are just on average, particularly women who have the larger upper body structures. The bench press might end up being a bit higher than that, but on average it's going to be around there. And you have to remember, with women they have less muscle fiber density in the upper body, so they're not necessarily going to gain strength as quickly on something like a bench press versus what they can on a squat. So that ratio is a little lower on the bench press for females. But definitely that squat and deadlift can usually be obtained if they really push themselves. And again, I give you optimal standards, assuming that they are really pushing themselves, because that same standard applies to males with those others. If they're not really working for it, obviously they're not going to achieve those numbers. Alright, next question. Taking in carbs post-workout can blunt the body's release of growth hormone. True or not? Well, there may be some truth to that, because there does seem to be an inverse relationship between insulin and growth hormone in the body. But the question becomes, does it really matter? It doesn't matter if it's true or not. What matters is, does it actually matter in the real world? And you see experts like George Farah talking about this now for his athletes he's working with. Well, for one thing, it's not necessarily going to hurt, because we know that these post-workout insulin spikes and recovery drinks and things actually don't matter anyways. They don't really benefit you unless you were training fasted and have been fasted for 20 to 24 hours already before you have the shake. And all the studies we've done in the supplement industry doesn't tell you that. So he's not hurting the athletes by letting them skip it, but he's also not helping them regardless of what his logic is. There's still no benefit to this. And particularly for his athletes, because they're all injecting exogenous HGH. So why would they care about what their body's producing? It's completely irrelevant. But as far as it actually mattering, it doesn't matter. All the research we have, and if you look at any of the meta-analysis done on this last year, the overall conclusion is that the amount of growth hormone and testosterone that you produce post-workout has zero impact on your muscle gains, either short or long term, zero impact on performance, zero impact on recovery. It's completely irrelevant. So even if you did blunt the production post-workout through some external means, there's no reason scientifically to think that it would actually hurt your progress in any way. So it's a completely moot point. It's moot in the sense that we know that you don't need the insulin spike post-workout. So it doesn't really matter whether you do it one way or another. All that really matters is your total caloric intake and macronutrient intake in regards to that. So if you need that protein shake to hit your numbers, then it's going to be beneficial. But if you don't, then it won't help you. But by that same token, we also know that blunting the GH doesn't matter either. So it doesn't have a negative attached to it either in that regard. Just it's completely irrelevant. All right, next question. Using bands to assist with squats, etc. Good idea or can create imbalances on strength, e.g. lockout, good, but weak at the bottom of the rep? No, it shouldn't create imbalances at all, and it doesn't matter whether we're talking about for bodybuilding or powerlifting, even though you're going to see this a lot more in powerlifting and with athletes. But because it changes the strength curve. Just because you're doing more of the weight at the top doesn't mean that you aren't working with a weight that you would normally work with down in the bottom of the rep. Now, you might not get as many. And for example, on the squat, let's say you normally do 315 for sets of 5 with free weight. You might drop down with the bands to where you're doing somewhere between 305 and 315 at the bottom, but you're overloading close to 400 at the top. But you're still working with the weight you would normally use at the bottom. But instead of getting 5 reps, you might only get 2 or 3. But that's not hurting your strength at the bottom. You're still going to be able to handle the similar amount of weight out of the bottom, but you are overloading the easier part of the rep for you. And you're also training yourself to come through the bottom more explosively because you have to get the bar speed moving faster to overcome the bands higher up. So you're training yourself to get more explosive overall by doing this. So it can actually have benefits to your full range of motion 1 rep max, not just the top part of the range of motion. Although it will give you better support muscles up top, it will also make it easier for you to hold a heavier weight up top. But the downside is that obviously you can't do as many reps sometimes if you're working at the bottom with your normal peak heavy weight and you're just overloading the top, because the overall workload is higher, so you're going to exhaust quicker. But no, it will not hurt your strength in that way. Alright, last question. On a scale of Lane Norton admitting he is wrong to Ryan Doris' sheep using trend, how likely is it that Jason Genova will step on stage below 10% body fat? You know, the thing is with Jason Genova, I can't figure out why he has so many haters. To be honest, there's really nothing to hate about Jason Genova. Let's be realistic here. He trains hard. He has a lot of passion for what he does. He's entertaining. And despite the fact that he has some setbacks like his ADHD, he still puts himself out there. And that takes a lot of balls. And to me, people who are actually hating on Jason Genova, I just don't get that. So why the people are hating on him and then people are saying, oh, he won't get below 10% body fat, he won't get lean for his show. They're just a bunch of fucking haters. In fact, I remember even a while back, I think Ian McStruthers accused him of being autistic, publicly. And people do stuff like that, and there's just no need for it. Now, as far as him competing, he seems to have a lot of passion for it. I think he's really into it. I think he's really motivated. He seems to love bodybuilding, and he's really dead set on competing. I think he's hired a prep coach last time I checked, so he's got a coach. He's training hard for it. His diet is on track. I think he was saying in a video the other day he's eating a really high protein diet, mostly protein at this point, like 3 solid meals and then 3 protein shakes in between. He's doing cardio every day, and I think he said just the other day in a video that he's doing something like 30 to 60 minutes of cardio every day, and he's following the diet plan given to him by his prep coach. And on top of that, he's got all these pro hormones that he's supplementing because he's sponsored by a company that produces them. So to say that he's not going to get under 10% body fat just doesn't make any sense. He's got everything there he needs to do it. I don't even see why people are concerned about this. And regardless of if Jason Genova happens to get into peak contest shape or not, his performance is going to be sickening. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it has been informative, and I will talk to you next time.